clinical research. So great turnout so far. We're already over 58. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen, and that way we can continue to talk about what the CTSI is. That's the Clinical Translational Science Institute. And really, at the foundation of it all, we are an infrastructure grant from the National Center for Advancing Translational Sciences. You'll hear the acronym NCATS, which is part of the National Institutes of Health. And our infrastructure award is primarily focusing on helping researchers do research. It doesn't have to be more challenging. Keep it simple and elegant. So that's what we do. We help researchers do research. Today's agenda, we're going to kind of look at the NIH CTSA program and award and sort of give you an overview of what that looks like. What is the UF CTSI and what we have to offer you? Again, we are an infrastructure resource for the entire institution, not just those that are in the Health Science Center. And also what specifically are some of those CTSI services and service providers. And then we want to have a fair amount of time at the end of today's session to allow some Q&A. Most importantly, I also want to thank and welcome some of our partners at Florida State University who have joined us today as well. Florida State is a part of our CTSA hub. It's a consortium award, and they also have access through the FSU CTSI, the ability to use the same resources and services that we offer our UF faculty members. So thank you and welcome to our FSU attendees. So the Clinical Translational Science Award Consortium, there's over 60 plus CTSAs across the United States. In the state of Florida, it is just us and the University of Miami. We actually have a strong collaboration partnership with University of Miami as well as several other CTSAs. We're actually an active member, sponsor, and contributor of the Southeast CTSA Consortium, which is hosted by the Emory and Georgia CTSA group. So we find ourselves in a great partnership with them as well. About the CTSI, we were originally founded in 2008. Our original NIH funding began in 2009. Currently, we're directed by Dr. Dwayne Mitchell. He's a neuro-oncologist in the Department of Neurosurgery, and Dr. Elizabeth Schenkman, who is a PhD faculty member and chair of Health Outcomes and Biomedical Informatics, and also the executive director of the One Florida Clinical Research Consortium. What are some of our primary functions? We feel our role is at the foundation of it to provide support for research and translation to practice. How do we get things from the bench to the bedside, essentially? How can we assist in delivering research services and resources? And then how can we also cultivate a strong translational workforce? We want to make sure that we're constantly building the educational components, not just for faculty and clinician scientists, but also our workforce development program. As of today, we have served individuals and have helped connect individuals for participation and collaboration across all 16 colleges at the University of Florida, throughout the state, throughout the CTSA consortium, and again, in my initial welcome, our partners at FSU. So how can we help you with the research process? So as we talk about the research process and how we have services allocated or categorized in each of these, we can assist researchers, and researchers is a broad term. You could be a faculty member, you can be a fellow, a resident, you could be a grad student or an undergrad student, or a staff member that's actually working on their own research activities in support of a research team. We help with study design, data management and software. We can help with participant recruitment and finding support with funding. We help in the delivery and conduct of study performance, and we have a broad list of facilities and resources and research personnel that are also available to individuals inside University of Florida and FSU for helping navigate the research process. One of the things that we offer that most people find very valuable is we offer no-cost consultations. We'll meet with you, schedule a 1 hour or more consult with you in person or Zoom. Conduct a project review. We look at assistance that we need to identify some possible needs or gaps that we might find in that project review. We'll help connect you to other service providers. And in most cases, sometimes faculty members approach us and say, I'd love to have a co-PI or a co-investigator or a collaborator on this. Is there somebody working in this space that I just haven't met or don't know yet? How do we evaluate available resources that should be included or could be included in those project reviews, make recommendations, assist with additional navigation to services and resources? Most importantly, and this is Bob's passion, is how do we identify education programs that help people on your team or help faculty members as well get through the workforce development timeline? And also for those that are doing large grant submissions, we provide letters of support identifying the services that we can offer specific proposals. So let's talk about some of the individual services that can help you design the study. So we talked about those characteristics a few seconds ago. In the design space, we have the Research Design and Data Coordinating Center. They specifically assist, you'll hear the acronym RDDC. In the CTSA world, you'll also hear this called BERD, B-E-R-D, Biostatistics and Experimental Research Design. But essentially, they'll work with you, especially in the clinical trials or data collection space around study design and grant proposal development. How are you doing data collection to achieve outcomes and endpoints for your research?
I think Brian froze.
Privacy preservation space around medical data sharing, have the capacity to work with data use agreements and other elements. There's also components with our systematic review core, which is offered through our library and specifically through literature searches. So the RDDC is a great starting point, especially in the consult process, to make sure that your study design and biostatistical issues are actually ironed out in advance of the initiation of a study, not in the middle of your study. Second to RDDC, I mentioned our library services. We have the systematic review cord. We've established a long list of resources here, most importantly, LibGuides for clinical research. They also provide consults on information, lit searches, electronic and print resources, and also have a list of other research-related tools. They offer classes that can be registered for in group session or privately for specific study teams, and that can be done again as a part of your consult process. But they're also very willing to work with specific research groups or study teams and talk about doing presentations either at your department research meetings or even be participants and contributors to journal club activities or help build journal club activities for study teams and research groups that are gathering. So that was the design space. Now let's talk about services and data management and software and how we can help there. So in the management of data, we have a group called CTSIT. That's the Clinical Translational Sciences Informatics and Technology team. This group is headed by Chris Barnes as the director of that group. They help researchers execute the discovery, produce scholarly works, and manage research activities. Specifically in systems operations, they offer IT infrastructure design and consulting, application development and application programming. And obviously, if you build out custom applications, how do you host it and support those? And most often that's done in a cloud-based environment. We'll talk about REDCap in a second, but they also have a lot of resources tied to Certiver and database and support and management information there as well. Inside the informatics services, there's consulting and design. They also offer research grant assistance, research needs analysis, and proposal development, and worked closely with the IDR, or Institutional Data Repository, as well as other data warehouses on campus around clinical data access. And again, most specifically around the application host and support, they also do software design and development. I mentioned REDCap a second ago. CTSIT is also the home of our REDCap support team. REDCap is an open source environment or application that is secured and web-based, but it helps facilitate data capture and management. Most people that are engaged in clinical research have heard the term EDC, electronic data capture, and have probably also heard the term CRF, case report form. So REDCap is a hosted and secure environment for us to use as an EDC to capture those CRFs for case report form data collection for your studies. It is a low to no cost alternative to looking at custom built systems. We have a two-tier pricing structure there. And again, Consult can help you get through that. But one is a low to no cost self help where you can provision and build with some training and resources your own REDCap projects, or you can actually hire the REDCap team to do your custom design and application support for you. So again, just helping make sure that projects are built appropriately. And again, piggybacking this on top of the RDDC support that we recommend you have. If you know what your statistical design and analysis should look like, then as you build your REDCap projects out, then you can perform your data capture in a way that aligns with your expected statistical analysis and outcomes and endpoints. So we've gone through design and data management and data collection. Now let's talk about study conduct and how the CTSI can help you in that space. Our Clinical Research Center is actually just under 14,000 square feet. It's located in the Clinical Translational Research Building. Most people call it the CTSI building, but actually it's Clinical Translational Research Building, CTRB. It's multiple departments are in this facility, including the Institute of Aging, Health Outcomes Biomedical Informatics, Department of Epidemiology, and a list of other clinically focused research teams. Inside our CRC, we have a group of experienced research nurses, clinical research coordinators, and assistants that can provide support around diet, lab, medical technology, and conduct of your study. We have inpatient research support where you can hire coordinators to perform your study activities for you in the inpatient setting, or you can use our Clinical Research Center to perform outpatient research encounters and activities for your studies. And this can be done separately from the outpatient clinical space to expedite convenience and really a better participant outcome instead of trying to mix this into the clinical setting. Also within our CRC facilities, we have 14 exam rooms, 2 procedure rooms, an exercise physiology area. We have our own metabolic kitchen for overnight stays. We have the capacity to do 24-hour encounters for folks that need extended PK or PD type studies. Or extensive infusion type activities. We have the capacity to do that. We also have a newly added, it's actually about 1 year old with us now, our clinical research vehicle, and this allows us to bring research to the community, or what we call studies on the move. So our CRC and CRV are excellent platforms for us to conduct research within the community or bring the community to us. As well as we are the home of one of the homes of the Investigational Drug Service for UF Health. So if you are requiring pharmaceutical support for investigational studies with an investigational agent, we have the capacity to do dispensings and infusion within the CRC. Our IDS uses a positive pressure US 797 compliant clean room. That is actually a big deal for folks that are doing FDA regulated work. I don't just put that there as a brag statement. We also have a class A1 BSL or biologic BSL1 biosafety cabinet. We do support a full investigational pharmacy, and our IDS group also will meet with individuals and talk about your protocol and understanding drug dispensing and custom compounding needs if you have investigator initiated studies where protocols require the compounding of a local product as opposed to acquiring product from a sponsor or from a drug company external to the institution. And they have the ability to receive, store, and dispense all the investigational product and are generally part of the FDA visit process as a FDA regulated facility for when we're doing FDA regulated clinical trials. Also within our CRC team is our Advanced Research Resources Group, the ARR. This team is led by Tet Pata. TET's group, you can actually acquire or use resources for partial or full FTE personnel. These are generally clinical research nurses or trained clinical research coordinators and research assistants. This allows you, if you're a study team that is limited on your own research team and need to hire or bring in a part-time resource or a full-time resource for just the life of a single study, you can acquire those resources from our advanced research resource team. You can basically, this is, anecdotally, we call this the rent-a-coordinator group. So if you need to hire a short-term research coordinator or even a long-term research coordinator without having to make that investment within your department or on your team, this is a way to do that. In addition to the coordinator support, we also offer services around internal study monitoring and quality control audits. Sometimes around data safety monitoring activities or in specific FDA studies, we can serve as a study monitoring board or a QC/QA board to help validate internal processes and data collection. Also within the conduct space is our biorepository. Our biorepository performs using the Encore CTMS for biospecimen storage. They have around-the-clock virtual monitoring systems on our freezers and our temperature-controlled biospecimen freezers and storage spaces. Sorry, I lost my words there for a second. The library specimen retrieval, we can do fresh frozen, formalin fixed, paraffin embedded tissue, DNA plasma sera, and Buffy coat samples. And we work closely with the Department of Pathology's CTSI biorepository in supporting data collection and abstracting of information along with lab sample collection to store things inside the CTSI biorepository, as well as use our service for sample collection within the CRC. So we've talked about probably the first 4 stages leading into conduct, but one of the things that we want to make sure is a really valuable resource that's well known to everybody is how can we help you around participant recruitment. Recruitment is one of those things that sometimes faculty members or study teams think about after the study has started. We actually want recruitment consults to start, or prefer recruitment consults to start during the design phase. Sometimes it's important to understand that recruitment is driven by clinical workflows or where those participants are. How do we access them? How do we reach them? How do we inform them of your study? So the recruitment center can actually help you around feasibility, communication strategies, creating recruitment materials, and the evaluation of your recruitment methods. One of the things that we like to promote is do this early instead of late. Usually when recruitment center gets involved at the late stage, we call those rescue missions. Studies needed to enroll 100 or 200 people and they've struggled to reach that target, and we bring the recruitment center in late. And oftentimes that leads to substantive, whether they're minor or major, but substantive changes to a protocol that require additional IRB review. So we would rather be a part of your study design process before conduct begins, so we can actually help with recruitment. But for the recruitment center specifically, we offer social media recruitment services across an entire host of social media platforms. We also use our community engagement group called Health Street to do things that, again, target very specific members in the community and helping understand this is why recruitment is so important, is what is the best tool. Facebook isn't always going to be your home run. It's just one arrow in that quiver of arrows that you might need to do in the recruitment space. Also, Recruitment Center can utilize the integrated data repository and consent to share tool sets. One of the faculty leaders of our recruitment center is actually the director of the STEM communication program within the College of Journalism and Communication. So she brings a whole host of resources as well into the process. The CTSI recruitment center is also the gatekeeper to getting studies listed on the UF Health study listing webpage. So any interventional or otherwise health-related clinical trials or protocols that show up on the UF Health study listing site are managed through the recruitment center. And likewise, we can do no-cost submissions of your study to a matching service online called Research Match, which is a national database that can reach out to many folks that have built sort of their own self-help profile of studies they might be interested in learning more about. So again, spent some significant time in today's talk about Recruitment Center, but recruitment, if we talk about why studies don't perform, generally it's the recruitment space. So this is a huge opportunity that we like to make sure folks know this is a consult and a service that we can help provide activity for you. Integrated Data Repository, the IDR. This is how we have a HIPAA compliant IRB approved limited data set. Our IDR team will help you produce queries to access clinical data for cohort identification and feasibility reviews. This also will help you for folks that have participated in the consent to share process. You can use data coming out of the IDR to actually do recruitment of folks that are possibly in your study population. This has already been secured per UF Health policies, and the IDR goes through a very systematic process just to aggregate data from both clinical and administrative systems, including Epic. There's a link here. You can actually access I2B2 queries on your own through a self-service type of platform. But the IDR also offers consults and can perform data queries and access for you based on IRB approved protocols. And here's a list of variables or data types that are commonly requested from the IDR, and just making sure that people understand that's there. Also inside the IDR is specifically the platform that I mentioned a moment ago, I2B2. This is a self-help data exploration or cohort discovery tool. If you want to know how many men over the age of 65 have received a statin, and then also had other comorbidities. You can put in variables and go through a query building process like that to return a number of unique patients that may meet that specific query. You can do it for data exploration. You can use it for cohort discovery and study feasibility. And again, IDR is the home of the I2B2. So again, if you need information and a support on this, this is certainly one of the pieces that helps in the recruitment space. And again, I don't want to sound like a broken record, but recruitment is a list of services, but I don't want folks to think that this was a presentation of a timeline. Recruitment should be something that you consider early on in your study design process and workflow. Also a part of our recruitment toolset and resources is the One Florida Plus Clinical Research Consortium. Specifically, this is a statewide clinical research network of which Florida State is a contributor and partner with us in. But we've actually now expanded outside of Florida. This past year, we've actually brought in UAB and Emory, which brings us the Birmingham, Alabama metro area, as well as the Atlanta, Georgia metro area. So in addition to all of these health systems and safety net sites, we now present, I believe, over 17 or 20, I think we have data on 15 to 16 million patients in the state of Florida representing all of these various health systems. And again, you'll see that we have both academic as well as for-profit and not-for-profit health system partners in this platform with us. So again, this is a really strong tool for getting your studies out to other One Florida collaborating sites in the consortium, but also using the One Florida Plus Data Trust as a way to do I2B2 and IDR type of cohort and feasibility studies around what information and data do we have on patients throughout the state of Florida, as well as Birmingham, Alabama, and Atlanta, Georgia. And you can get more information at onefloridaconsortium.org. Health Street, again, this is a community-based or community-focused engagement group that helps in the recruitment space as well. Primarily, they help support the inclusion of underrepresented populations. They actually do an intake process with a series of survey-driven data collection tools. They link people based on their needs and concerns to medical and social services, as well as the opportunity to participate in health research. They are not just a go into the community and find people to put on your study, but again, this is one of the CTSI's community engagement tools. They help in bidirectional health promotion and communication with and for the community, and they've been an active part alongside Megan McPherson and many other CTSI resources of recent days, specifically on how do we do health equity and health literacy programming in the community around COVID-19 and vaccine uptake and other types of hot topic issues like that. But really around community engagement, they help drive the focus on community trust in the research enterprise. So Health Street is actually a really substantive part of our community engagement program. So now let's talk about navigation. And some of you heard me mention a special thanks to folks that are on the CTSI team: Bob Kolb, Tiffany Pineda, Sheila Austin, others that are on this call are a part of our RKS team. That's our regulatory knowledge and support. And again, the point here is we want to make sure that folks realize there are gurus, or what we call SMEs, subject matter experts, that can help you with the regulatory processes that often vex us or create barriers and hurdles that we want to make sure are removed the best way possible. Carrie Weatherington, for instance, in our Office of Clinical Research, specifically works on clinicaltrials.gov. If you have to meet the process of doing ct.gov submissions, somebody is here to walk you through that. Sheila Austin is an expert around investigational new drug and IDE applications and submissions directly to the FDA. Tiffany Pineda is an exceptional teacher around ethics consults. Bob Kolb is actually a research subject advocate on our IRB committee. And again, this entire group also supports the Data Safety Monitoring Board activities and charter that we can help provide around generalized services to research study teams. And I don't know if, I'm trying to see if somebody's on this call real quick. Pardon me, everybody. All right, I don't see her on here, so I won't call her out by name, but we also have a team member who is dedicated specifically to GLP, GMP, and GCP types of activities and support, as well as QA and QC and SOP development and implementation for you. All right, let's talk about some of our workforce development programs. As a part of the CTSA award and consortium, one of the things that we are driven to do is train and sustain the next generation of clinical and translational workforce. And that's not just the clinician scientist, that's also the clinical research professional or the resident or trainee that's still sitting in the classroom, if you will. We do offer a KL2 early stage investigator multi-D program. We have TL1 pre-doc training programs. We are heavily engaged also with our MD PhD training program and conduct a clinical research professionals training and educational workshop as well. Bob Kolb is actually very active in that in the national level with CLIC and NCATS, and he'd be happy to share more information about some of our clinical research professional training activities. But at a minimum, if you're not on the clinical research professionals listserv, reach out to Bob Kolb. I think he'll show up as H. Robert Kolb in your Outlook directory, but he'll add his email address for you to the chat so everybody can see that. But at a minimum, if you'd like to know when we're having some of our clinical research professional consortium meetings or trainings and educational opportunities, that's a good way to get added to that listserv. We also offer a mentorship academy. We are actually the academic home of the International Mentors Association, the IMA, as the CTSI. So just want to make sure that folks know that mentoring is actually not just a word, it's an action, it's a strategy, it's a do. So want to make sure that mentoring, whether that be student, trainee, team member and worker, or physician and early stage investigator, mentorship is a big deal, and we can actually help match folks to mentorship opportunities. We also offer master's and certificate level as well as concentration type of courses specifically around, say, biomedical informatics or biorepository or other types of activities. And I would be remiss to mention biotility. It's a part of our Center of Excellence for regenerative. Oh, Megan, help me on this one. I always forget CHRB's acronym, CERHB. It's our biotech core is essentially what we call it. But
you called on me and I have to look it up. I'm sorry, Tamara. I'm so sorry. Center for Regenerative Health. Oh, gosh. Regenerative Health Biotechnology. I was going to say biology, but biotechnology. But biotility, biotility is what we call it.
Yes, we call it biotility. What's really important here is they're specifically directed at training and education in the biosciences industry workforce. If you have members of your lab who haven't necessarily viewed college degrees aren't the direction that they're moving in, but they really would like to continue their professional development in the biosciences as well as their own workforce development, then biotility is actually a way to acquire a nationally accredited certification in bioscience. It's called BACE, B-A-C-E. So those folks that are actually heavily involved in biotech, life sciences, lab work, benchtop work, and would like to pursue additional certifications, biotility is a really nice source to do that and can receive a national accreditation or certification through BACE. All right, so other technologies and services that we can offer through our core facilities. We do have a biobehavioral core, a Center for Cellular Reprogramming, a genotyping core, our Center for Safety Simulation and Advanced Learning Technologies. Again, if you look on the CTSI website, we have this list of cores and shared resources there. I don't want to actually read to you. I think that that's not the purpose of you joining us today. I want to make sure that there's opportunity for folks to share and collect more information through the Q&A process. We also have a human imaging core. We have CSIM, which is the Southeast Center for Integrated Metabolomics, another center of excellence that's also NIH funded. And then we also have our Translational Drug Development Core for promising compounds that need assistance to move from the lab to clinical trials. So again, we have a list of core facilities that we want to make sure folks know about. You don't necessarily have to have this expertise in your lab or hire an external lab. Use one of the CTSI shared resources or cores to accomplish some of these activities for you. If we don't have the core, there may actually be another UF based core, whether it be inside the ICBR, the Cancer Center, or other approved core laboratories on campus, and we can help with those navigational resources as well. So if there's something we don't have, we want to make sure we link you and connect you with that. And again, I think Megan mentioned reach out to us at info@ctsi.ufl.edu and we can make that happen. All right, so let's talk about the gorilla in the room. Everybody worries about, oh, the CTSI has all these amazing things. How do we pay for them? So first, everything that we do at the CTSI comes with a no-cost consultation. We don't want this to, there's no risk for just coming to meet with one of our consultants for an hour, or one of our cores or shared resource leaders for an hour or more. Those no-cost consultations are part of what we do. That's a part of the infrastructure program built into the CTSA award. We also offer a voucher program as well as pilot awards. And then we'll talk about what we have in the department funds, grant budgets, and contract line items. But first, let's talk about how do you reach out to us. Go to ctsi.ufl.edu/research. And you can reach out to any of the services or cores directly at any time during your research, design, implementation, or data collection process, and you'll receive a 1 to 2 hour free consultation. They're going to collect some very generic data from you just so we can simply track how many services are conducted and what the outcomes of those services are. After you go through the consult service, then you may discover that you need more than a 1 hour consult, and we offer a voucher program. April Braxton is on the call. I want to thank her specifically. She helps run our voucher program, but we offer vouchers for virtually all of our cores and resources. And what you can do is after you've had that 1 hour or 1 to 2 hour consult, you can put in an application for a voucher or a request form for a voucher. This will offer you funding for up to $1,000 worth of service or support from the CTSI to offset the cost of some of the services that go beyond that no-cost consult. You cannot apply for a voucher if you haven't done the initial no-cost consult first. That's just one of our processes. We want to make sure that you may not even need the voucher. You could actually get the service you need in that 1 hour no-cost consult. So we want to make sure that we don't just kick off an extra administrative process that's required. And again, all of this is available to you through a website request form. Outside of our vouchers, we also offer multiple pilot funding opportunities. A lot of our pilot awards are obviously focused on translational research. And then we also specifically ask folks that if you're going to use our pilot award mechanisms, that you also look into how you can build in some of our cores and shared resources into the concept of those pilots, whether that be TDD, pain, informatics, precision health, metabolomics. And then obviously in translational words, we want to make sure that this is designed to impact clinical practice, or what we refer to as the health system. So again, we have multiple types of pilot awards. They, we want to promote interdisciplinary and multidisciplinary types of research. We want this to support investigator-initiated translational research. And again, we have actually run multiple pilot opportunities that include both UF and FSU to try to support the multi-institutional approach as well, and grow the strength of our consortium between UF and FSU. So again, make sure that you're looking inside our UF CTSI webpage, and we're constantly posting information about our pilot project funding opportunities. All right, so here's the last plug for Megan is, how do I know when there's something going on at the CTSI that might be meaningful to me? You can actually join our newsletter, get CTSI news, funding announcements, or event updates. We only do this once a week, unless there's something that's urgent or compelling that we think everybody needs to know about sooner than later. But you'll get our quick links newsletter one time weekly, sometimes less than that, because there may not be content or material to send it weekly, but we do our best just to hit your inbox once a week, not blow up your inbox and think that we're spamming you. But again, this is a great way to get current events, hot topics, things that are happening in the CTSI consortium nationally that we think we want to promote here locally, and obviously funding announcement and other CTSI news. So please go to the ctsi.ufl.edu website, click on contact, and join our newsletter. That's my last shameless plug for Megan as our communications director. And with that, how do you find out information more directly from us? Here's our website again, ctsi.ufl.edu. You can get our general contact receptionist phone at 273-8700, obviously area code 352. And the easiest way, honestly, is because multiple people are watching it, is info@ctsi.ufl.edu. And that's a great way to kick off any of your consults or navigational needs, as well as get access to those no-cost consults for certain services. So with that, What can we do to answer some questions? Now, I think Megan will jump in and probably suggest that we've muted everybody, or maybe I'll just say this. I think we've muted everybody for the sake of this meeting. So it would be mostly ideal if you have questions, if you posted those in the chat session. It allows us to capture them and update some of our frequently asked questions on our website. So don't be afraid. You know, this is a safe space. No questions or stupid questions, and we would love to have this interaction with you.
And if we don't get any questions, I will turn off here. I'll just turn off the unmute option. So if anybody does want to speak up and ask a question, just it's too hard to type it. Go ahead.
I have a question. Hi, thank you so much for such an informative but so full presentation. So I'm currently a PhD student in TL1 and guarantee. And so I had a question regarding the consults and how far in advance do you have to make the appointment? Is it on a weekly, daily basis that this is available, or do you have to make an appointment like a month before, 2 weeks before? What does that look like? Thank you.
So Karen, thank you. That's a great question. So what's the availability and what's the lead time that you need to give these no-cost consults? I hate to say this, but it depends. Some of our resources are going to be more high demand. So if you wanted to have specific consults with, say, the institution, or I'm sorry, the integrated data repository, it may be a week out before you could get a consult appointment. But generally, when you reach out to us, and maybe April Braxton can unmute herself and can speak to this, I don't know that we can say that they're all same day, but many of our consult requests usually happen within the same week, depending on just scheduling availability.
I would agree with Brian's statement. And if the request is out there and a response is not being received, feel free to message me or get in contact with me, and I can help move those through as well.
And everybody, thank April for being on the call on her day off.
Thank you, April.
Always available.
Karen, did that answer the question for you?
Yes, it did. Thank you.
Awesome. All right, so Kevin Johnson is recruitment assistant, mainly focused on the Gainesville area, or helpful for Tallahassee. Actually, recruitment center services are targeted nationally. We've actually used one of our recruitment center success stories that we like to talk about is a proton therapy study that's being run out of Jacksonville, but it actually has 54 study sites running nationally as a multi-center PCORI funded program. And we did some social media advertisement as well as underrepresented minority recruitment strategies there. And that is not a local only recruitment tool set. So certainly happy to plug in recruitment services outside of the Gainesville area, and we have that capacity to do that.
We have plenty of time if there's more questions, even specific ones.
Yep. And Jenny asked the question, are 1 to 2 hour consults per project or per investigator? April jumped in and mentioned that those consults are per project. So this isn't one PI gets one shot at asking one question. A PI can come in for a project-based consult and come in a week later for some completely different project-based consult. This isn't a per PI thing. This is a per project resource. So we want to make sure that folks have that awareness.
Nadine asked, is the citizen scientist program available to assist with patient engagement and recruiting?
Actually, Miss Nadine was doing both of us a favor and making sure that that's actually not a question, that's a statement. She's letting folks know that the citizen scientist program is absolutely 100% available to assist with patient engagement, study design, and recruitment. And again, citizen scientist is a part of our community engagement tool set, as well as our learning health system infrastructure, but is a very valuable part of our recruitment center team as well. Thank you, Nadine.
Next question was from Aprinda about the KL2 application for 21-22. How does that work?
I can answer that. There will be, however, it is not posted at this time. The RFA is currently in process, and it should be shared within the next month to month and a half.
Yeah, so part of that is there's actually a funding mechanism change from NIH. We're waiting on a new RFA and funding opportunity announcement. They will actually convert the our KL2 funding mechanism to a K-12 structure. Again, that's just a lot of NIH language. It's not going to change the implementation of our program or our pilots or our funding cycles. It's just going to have some different numbers and NIH mechanics tied to it. So April will make sure that that gets out to everybody shortly. Rebecca asked the question, can we assist with studies that use secondary data such as insurance claims? Absolutely, yes, 100%. I would tell you that probably the best two resources there is the Integrated Data Repository as well as the One Florida Data Consortium. I think we have over 20, I don't want to use the wrong number. If you go to onefloridaconsortium.org, it will tell you how many pieces of data, but that is a large portion of what is in the One Florida Data Trust is actually claims-based data. So it's really a great source for understanding diagnostics, treatment, and claims data, as well as financial and economic toxicity around healthcare, as well as geographic distribution of claims and talking about, if you were asking a question, were claims equally distributed across a geography? It's a great way to look at that and look at geospatial type of mapping, zip code and Census Bureau type data as well.
Do you want to mention, Brian, the FLRDC?
FLRDC, that's great. That is our again, FLRDC is a Census Bureau supported. We are one of 22 or 25 Census Bureau supported suites, security driven suites. That is, and I say suite not as in a group of tools, as in a functional secured space that has Census Bureau supported platforms, data, and computers, and a Census Bureau employee located in it. FLRDC is actually one of our newest cores and services. So if you want to run Census Bureau specific data sets, you actually have to write an application or a proposal to have access to the data. But that is something that we are recently kicked off. And I think we are the only Census Bureau data center in the state of Florida. And actually, Florida State is one of our consortium partners in that program, as well as several other state institutions. So that's a great way to get geocoded health and demographic data from all over the country, actually, through that Census Bureau outlet. So FLRDC. Yes, thank you. Rebecca's actually jumped in. Yes, you have restricted data to national health data sets such as NHA, NAS, and NSDUH. So absolutely.
And there was a question above that from Jenny again, that will everyone who applies for a voucher receive it? Are there requirements?
All right, so not everybody that applies for a voucher will receive it. The voucher is intended to unstick research. So one of the things that we like to talk about, and I'm just going to be transparent or frank here, the voucher program isn't intended for a well-funded, highly awarded faculty member to come in and get free services. They clearly have the infrastructure and the gravitas, if you will, to get through the funding barriers that many faculty members are presented with. The voucher is intended to help early stage investigators, trainees, junior faculty members, or others who are running into real or perceived clinical research or health sciences, biosciences barriers. And the voucher is a way to acquire CTSI resources or tools to overcome those barriers. So it's not a just ask and you get it for free, but I will tell you that the approval rate is still actually rather high. It's not 100%, but it's close. So hopefully that answered that for you, Jenny. All right, perfect.
All right, we still have 15 minutes, so have at it, question askers.
For the record, everybody that's one of my team members on this call just like seeing me get put on the spot. So you guys got to throw me some doozies. They like watching me dance.
Certification program and evaluation.
So I don't know that we have a certification in program evaluation. We're actually in the process of rebuilding our program evaluation tool set. We're actually deploying Dr. Yulia Strekalova, who's been a part of the CTSI for quite a long time, has actually just joined as an assistant professor in one of the departments in public health and health professions. But she is actually the director of evaluation for the CTSI. And perfect. But we thank you, Rebecca. So we do not have a certification in program evaluation, but we're certainly happy to use our program evaluation tool sets and help offer that as a resource to others. We're currently in the process of deploying the translational sciences benefits model to the CTSI itself. So evaluation is something that we take quite seriously and are sincere about how we can use evaluation for others' benefit as well. Thank you, Rebecca.
I had another question, Brian. So when it comes to the data management resource that's provided, is it just in the beginning where CTSI like helps you with that resource, or throughout the lifetime of like your database? Like, would you assist in data management tool that process for a year, 6 months, and then the like PI manages it themselves? Or I hope that question was clear.
Yep. No, Karen, that I get the question. And again, I'm a classic research administrator. And if you ask a research administrator what their favorite color is, they're supposed to answer with gray. Because it depends. So I thrive in the gray area. So to answer your question best, and I hate to use this, but I'll give you some scenarios, is it depends. If a faculty member just simply requires, can somebody help me build my first REDCap database and make sure that I have established the right security for the right people to access it from the right places? Do I need security set up for UF and FSU or people at University of Michigan to access it? So again, the consult will go through what are the things that you need to have done to set up that REDCap database for data collection and data management. Likewise with RDDC. The consult may sort of lend itself to discovering that this isn't just a guided tutorial around helping build my first REDCap data suite. I actually might need to acquire a custom application that extracts data directly from Epic and the EMR, or extracts data from case report forms that are completed by 72 sites and dump them all into one. So I think the consult will help identify some of those pieces. Likewise, the REDCap consult may actually lead you down our research design and data coordinating center pathway, where you then might want to hire, with funding from your study, the RDDC. And the RDDC will also use the same REDCap data structure to help build your data collection tool sets. But they actually now become part of the process around actually engaging each of your sites in data quality, data integrity, data completeness, and even possibly, depending on the types of study it is, could actually help in data collection and abstraction from various data sources to fill those case report forms. So again, all of those resources are available throughout the entire life cycle of a study, sort of from cradle to grave. Is it just an early stage consult, or is this we need somebody from RDDC or CTSIT engaged in the entire life of the project? But that consult will help sort of identify that. But the resource is there nonetheless for the entire life of the protocol.
And that payment, would that be like a one-time payment out of the grant that you have, or is it like a continuous?
So the $1,000 consult offset. So for instance, if you needed to hire CTSIT to develop a custom application that extracts data from some other data source and then dumps it into REDCap for you, they'll actually go through and write an estimate of what that cost would look like for both systems development as well as effort and support, or FTE, and they'll write you an estimate. And then the $1,000 consult or the $1,000 voucher will offset whatever $1,000 will cover off of that estimate. Some of our consults we won't give you the voucher because you didn't even use $1,000 worth of service. So really, it does depend. From is it a one-time thing? You only can ask for one voucher per project. So if you had a $10,000 service and you asked for one voucher, you're only going to get one voucher for that service. So that's how that piece would work. And then you would be billed as services are delivered to the grant or the project that is funding your research, as those services are sort of purveyed or delivered to you. That's how that process would work.
Thank you.
Perfect. All right. Bob asked me if I could share what's in store for the iteration of CTSI with the upcoming renewal. So just quick news and information there. We are currently in a funding cycle that our current funding on a UL1 mechanism, we call this right now CTSI 3.0. CTSI 3.0's current grant with FSU will expire on June 30th of 2024. That is our current funding mechanism. The National Center for the Advancement of Translational Sciences, NCATS, has just released our recent funding announcement for our renewal. As many of you are aware, you don't write a big UL1 grant in a short period of time. We'll actually start authoring the brand new grant as early as January to May of 2022 in preparation of submitting no later than May of 2023 for a renewal effective July 1 of 2024. So that's sort of the current timeline that we're speculating right now. And I see Dr. Janine Turner on with FSU, and she sort of blinked her eyes when I said, oh gosh, we're going to start writing for the next year and hand it in by May of 2023 for funding in 2024. And Dr. Turner is one of our evaluation team members, so she knows entirely what that means. So, and Tara is saying, yay, can't wait. Thank you for our FSU partners that are really, really looking forward to helping us build this. So that new FOA has actually changed some of the names of our funding components, but not necessarily the intention or the intended delivery of the services or resources that we align with those components. So we are going through a minor sort of, I don't want to call it a reorganization, but certainly a strategic planning activity between UF and FSU and understanding what does the new FOA demand of us. I can tell you that community engagement and diversity, equity, inclusion are cross-cutting themes that must be represented by all of the components that we put forward or modules that we put forward in the new award renewal. So those are things that we take rather seriously. Obviously, the CTSI is already pretty invested in diversity, equity, inclusion. I think I'd like to call it an award-winning activity, but we have sort of a flag waving service that we call our DC3, and that's our diversity and cultural competency committee, and they are our council, and they are extremely active both in the research administration, clinical research coordination, as well as institution support around diversity, equity, inclusion. And how do we do that across both the clinical research professional training spectrum up through training and workforce development and into the clinical sciences space, specifically even targeting underrepresented persons, recruitment and participation in clinical studies. So that's sort of the timeline and sort of the two hot topics that will come as Dr. Mitchell, Dr. Schenkman, and Dr. Joyce, our FSU PI, go through the strategic planning exercise. I think there's going to be more that comes out of it to help guide us and lead us through that renewal process. What I can tell you is all of the services and cores and resources that we've presented to you today, I'm 99.999% sure will remain intact and still be funded and supported and available as resources to all of you as our customers to the CTSI. So certainly want to not give you hopes that there's something here you can use and then a year from now we're taking it away from you. So hopefully that's not the case. But Bob, thank you. That was a mild softball question for me. I appreciate that one.
Last question. So obviously with ever-changing spaces, are the consults in person or Zoom, or how is this working to access?
That's honestly, Karen, one of the best questions you've had yet today. And it's at your preference. Here's what we want to make sure. In spite of COVID, we are still available. In spite of COVID and being virtual or being in person, we're still available. So if it's at your preference that you do a face-to-face meeting, we will equip the conference room, we will equip the office, we will do what we need to do to host you in a face-to-face setting. Or if your preference is, I'm a TL1 trainee and I'm actually not in Gainesville this week, but I still need to do my consult via Zoom, we will equip and facilitate that as well. So that's really at your preference. And honestly, sometimes it comes down to the availability of the consultant, but we want to make sure we deliver the services you need or require there. And Karen gets the CTSI mug for all the best questions today. For the rest of you who are being shy,
I'll come and get my mug.
I gotta find mugs. Thank you, Brian.
I've got 15 mugs in my truck. I'll go grab you one. I won't tell you what those are being used for, but now I have 14 mugs. One of them's for Karen.
Anybody else from CTSI, Bob, Tiffany, April, have anything that they would like to share that we missed or that you feel is pertinent to the questions asked?
I'd just say we're very approachable, happy to talk anytime. You can find us in the office, just knock and call, email. I mean, all the channels are open.
I'll also add that our FSU partners are on here. I see Joe Brown Spates, I see Janine Turner, I see Tara Bradley. These are the ones that I recognize and know. I know that there are others on from FSU. Please, if there are things that we can do to help our FSU partners and consortium partners out, please, please, please do not hesitate to ask. This is something that Dr. Joyce and Dr. Nichols and I have been really passionate about solving is how do we keep the resources flowing between both institutions in a efficient way. So if there's a question or an ask, please don't hesitate to reach out to me or Bob or even Dr. Nichols at FSU, and we'll make that happen.